Chapter 16, Juvenile Delinquents. All through math, I sucked on my braids and imagined all the awful things that would happen if I was caught with all those books in my locker. Every parent at Shelbourne Elementary would line up to sue me. My dad would lose his bricklaying business. My mom would lose her job. We'd have to sell our house and move to a different city. My sisters would have to be sold to medical research companies. Well, it wouldn't all be so bad. I was overacting, and I knew it. What I was doing wasn't exactly illegal. The school board had just said that Mrs. Jones couldn't loan out those books. They didn't say I couldn't. I still wanted to loan out the books, but I didn't want to get caught. So how was I going to let people know what books I had to check out? If I didn't have a way of telling the other kids what I had, they wouldn't know to ask for them. And nobody would read them. Then it would all be for nothing. And then I had it. Why not tape a list of books I had on my locker? I just didn't have to call it that. During language arts, I used one of the computers to type up a list, and I taped it to my locker after school. At the top, in big capital letters, it said, "Books banned at Shelbourne Elementary." Underneath that was every one of the books Mrs. Spencer and the other parents had taken off the shelves, with a little dot from a green magic marker next to all the books I had in the BBLL. Once everybody knew how to read it, I could just add a new green dot to any book that got added. Presto! Looking at the list again, I realized there were still a lot of books I needed to add, and Danny was running out of people to ask. What I needed was money to buy books with. "Bake sale," Rebecca said. "Of course," I said, "a bake sale. Every time we wanted to raise money to help build a well in Africa or to support the Red Cross after a hurricane, we had a bake sale. All I had to do was tell my dad we were having another bake sale at school, and he picked up a brownie mix at the store without even asking what it was for. Same with Rebecca's mom. Rebecca and I set up our plastic-wrapped brownies and chocolate chip cookies in a basket on a table in the cafeteria and started raking in the moolah. The first day, we made $7.50. I was counting out the quarters again when Rebecca nudged me. "What?" I said. Rebecca nudged me again, harder. "What?" I said. I looked up and saw Principal Banana coming right for us. Her name isn't Principal Banana, of course. It's Banazowski. But none of the kindergartners could ever pronounce her name right, so she let them call her Principal Banana. As fourth graders, we were supposed to call her Principal Banazowski, though. Principal Banazowski reminded me of a police detective from one of those TV mysteries. She wore gray suits and black leather shoes, and she always had a walkie-talkie on her belt and her school ID in a plastic holder pinned to her jacket like a badge. I expected her to yell, "Freeze, punk! You're under arrest!" every time I saw her. Instead, she looked over our selection of desserts and said, "Looks good, ladies. What's the cause?" "The what?" I said. "What are you raising money for?" Principal Banazowski asked. Her walkie-talkie squawked, and she turned down the volume on it without looking at it. I pulled a braid around and chewed on it. I said. I looked at Rebecca. Her eyes went wide, and she shook her head. I stammered. We couldn't tell her what our bake sale was really for. I was going to have to make something up. What had our last bake sale been for? I couldn't remember. With Detective Banazowski staring at me, I couldn't think of anything. "We're raising money for books," I said. "Books?" Principal Banazowski said. Rebecca gawked at me. "Books for prisoners," I said, "for them to read in prison." Rebecca closed her eyes. I think she might have been praying. "Books for prisoners?" Principal Banazowski said. "Kid prisoners, kids our age who are in jail." Under the table, Rebecca started hitting me in the leg with her fist. You mean juvenile delinquents? Principal Banaszowski said. Yes, I said, juvenile delinquents. We're raising money to buy books for juvenile delinquents. That sounded good. Well, that's very noble of you, Principal Banaszowski said. I'll take 2 cookies. She handed over $1, and I had to kick Rebecca to get her to open her eyes and take the money. Rebecca turned on me the second Principal Banaszowski was gone. Books for kid prisoners to read in jail, she said. Well, what was I supposed to say? I said. We're raising money for the homeless, or the animal shelter, or a food bank. Where were all those great ideas when she was asking? I said. Well, I thought you would think of something else besides, what we're actually raising money for, Rebecca said. Oh, yeah, I said. Well, you just wait till Helen comes, then you'll be sorry for picking on me. Rebecca and I bursted out laughing. I'm sorry, all right, I said. Every time I see Principal Banana, I think of the police. It makes me nervous. Well, at least you didn't lie to her, Rebecca said. We are raising money to buy books for juvenile delinquents. Us.